Okay, today we are going to solve worksheet number 13. So by the end of this video, you should be able to recognize the difference between active immunity, passive immunity, to describe and explain how vaccine prevents the spread of diseases and how antibodies work and phagocytes work, and the main mechanical barriers of the body and chemical. Now, here, question one. What happens when a child is vaccinated against tuberculosis? We said that children are regularly vaccinated against many diseases. So, the vaccine which is given to children, it contains the pathogen and the antigen. That's why it provokes the immune system or stimulates the immune system to produce antibodies against these pathogens or antigens. So the type of immunity is active anti-production of memory cells, yes, because active immunity, uh, we have memory cells. In active immunity, we have memory cells that last longer after the infection. So, a type of immunity active, a production of memory cells, yes. So the answer is B. Question 2. What is a disease-causing organism called? It is pathogen, which is C. 3. Which statement describes a transmissible disease? It is A. A disease caused when a pathogen passes from one host into another. Let's see other choices. When I say B, a disease caused when a pathogen passes through a host's body. So here that the pathogen is multiplying inside the host body. But at this case, it is not transmitted from this host to another body. So this is not the meaning of a transmissible or infectious diseases. Let's go to C. A disease caused when a pathogen passes to the host body only by direct contact? No, or by indirect. As we said, that transmissible diseases could be transmitted either by direct or indirect contact. So the answer is A for this question. 4. Please pay attention to these questions. Which are both chemical barriers to the transmission of pathogens? When I say chemical barriers, I mean that they are available all the time and they work like a layer to prevent the pathogen from getting in. Mucus, yes. Stomach acid, yes. But let's go to B. Mucus, yes. White blood cells, okay, white blood cells, they contain chemical enzymes to digest, and the antibodies already, they are chemicals that may contain toxins or some enzymes to digest, but the main barriers that are always available to defend mucus and stomach acid, because white blood cells, they need time in order to recognize and to make antibodies by lymphocytes and to alert phagocytes. So when these barriers are not available, or when these barriers, for example, some people, they have default in mucus, they have lots of watery mucus, it is not sticky to trap, and they may have some problems with the stomach acid. In this case, when the pathogen gets into the cell inside, then white blood cells come and takes lots of time. So the main chemical barriers, always I look for the first defenses, which are mucus and stomach acid, and they are chemical, yes, because they contain digestive enzymes, or they may kill the pathogen by digesting it. 5. Some features that help to defend the body against pathogens are listed. Also, let's look for this question. It is very similar, but this question talks about the defenses in general. It doesn't talk about if it is chemical or mechanical, or it talks about which one do you think prevents the pathogen from getting inside the cells or inside the tissue. Mucus, skin, stomach acid, phagocytosis. Mucus, skin, stomach acid, yes. They prevent, they work as a barrier. Now, phagocytosis, they come and defend the body after the pathogen gets into the cell. That's why we said that white blood cells can change shape and they can squeeze out of capillaries to go inside the tissue. Okay, so here when phagocytosis takes place, that means that the pathogen has already entered the cell and they go to fight it. But to prevent from getting into the cell before going mucus, skin, stomach, so the answer is B. 1, 2, 3. The answer is B. Okay. Question 2. It's very important to be able to answer this question fully. As you see, it contains 5 marks. And look for the keywords here. Describe how vaccination can prevent the spread of diseases. So first of all, we should talk about what vaccine is. First of all, vaccine is dead or weakened pathogen. It enhances active immunity. Okay? So this is one. Number two, when these antigens get inside the body, they provoke the immune system to produce antibodies that are fit or complementary to these pathogens. So this is number two. Number three, lymphocytes produce now memory cells and they alert also the phagocyte to come. Number four, which is the most important one, because the question says how vaccine after producing antibodies and so on and memory cells. Now, once the pathogen comes and infect the body, there is no way to multiply, as we know, because this person is vaccinated. So once the pathogen cannot multiply because of memory cells, so here the disease cannot spread from host into another. So this is the fourth point, that because of long-term immunity or because of memory cells, the pathogen cannot spread from one host into another. And number five, because they are given to children, regularly given to children, the vaccines. So we have programs of mass vaccination. Programs of mass vaccination, that means that children are regularly vaccinated within a specific programs to prevent spread of diseases. As we know, children should not be given pathogens at a specific age. So when they are newborn, they are given a pathogen that enhances their immune system but doesn't exhaust their immune system and make them so ill, which leads to death. So they give them pathogens that can be easily attacked by the body or to provoke the immune system, not harmfully. It should be harmless according to their age. Once they become many months or after this or after 1 year, they are given pathogen for the much severe diseases. So here we have programs for the vaccine. So the first point, as we said, we have to define what vaccine is, and it is injected. Number two, we have to say that how the antigen provokes the immune system to make antibodies. Number three, we should talk about the producing memory cells and phagocytes. Number four, we have to talk about that long-term immunity prevents the spread of disease from one host into another. Then we talked about programs of mass vaccination. Let's go to number three. Number three, here, Heroin abuse may lead to HIV infection. The people they inject shots or injections of heroin, they do not sterilize the needles. So that's why if people um, uh, are at risk, are at risk of getting infectious diseases such as HIV, hepatitis, and other infectious diseases that can be transmitted by direct contact with the blood. So, explain how vaccination stimulates active immunity. So that's why some people they are given vaccine against HIV. Now look at this question. Explain how vaccination stimulates active immunity. This question talks about less ideas than the question before. It says just how it provokes the immunity. So once I say how it provokes the immunity, I don't talk about it is about the disease if it is transmitted or not transmitted from one person or from one host into another. And I don't talk about the programs of vaccination. So just I talk how vaccine works. So first of all, we should say that vaccine as we know, it's dead or weakened pathogen injected that provoked or stimulates the immune system to produce antibodies against these antigens that are specific and complementary to these pathogens. So, number one, dead or weakened. Number two, about triggering and provoking the immune system to produce complementary or fit antibodies. Number three, that we have memory cells stay after the infection. And number four, long term, eventually we have long term immunity. We stop. We stop at these points. We don't talk about further. So whenever you ask about how vaccine stimulates active immunity, you should answer in this way. Explain what is meant by passive immunity. What is meant by passive immunity? Passive immunity, as we know, it is short, number one, short-term defense against pathogens and immediate protection. Immediate, because now the person is given antibodies or ready-made antibodies. The body doesn't take that much time to make new antibodies against the pathogen. Okay, the vaccine that it provokes the immune system, it contains pathogen. But in passive immunity, already antibodies either pass to the body or they are injected into the body directly. As we said, in many diseases, we don't wait that much time for the immune system to be provoked and to make antibodies against specific diseases. We have to fight this disease immediately because it may cause severe symptoms and severe sequences. That's why we give the person immediate antibodies against this pathogen to fight immediately. So it is short term. It doesn't stay for that much time. It may stay for it may stay for weeks or months, not longer than this, because the immune system actually has not been provoked to make its own antibodies. It is immediate. Number two, you have to give examples, such as when the antibodies pass across the placenta or across the milk from mother to baby, or such as tetanus injection. Okay, now let's talk about this. Lymph flows through lymph nodes. Figure 4 shows the action of white blood cells in lymph node when bacteria are present. Name the type of the nuclear division shown at P. Here is P. P, here, what are these cells? These are lymphocytes. So, lymphocytes now are multiplying or reproducing. They are producing clones, copies. Why? To produce exact antibodies that fit or complementary to this shape of bacteria. So that's why here the division is mitosis. This division is called mitosis. You can have it in grade 10. Name the molecules labeled Q. Let's go to Q. These are antibodies that are Y-shaped. Describe how bacteria are destroyed by cell R. Here we have phagocytosis. These are phagocytes, and here we have phagocytosis. Now, how phagocytes work? First of all, the antibodies, as you see here, antibodies, how they clump to the pathogen. So, number one, antibody is clumped by antigen is clumped by antibody which immobilize its movement. What is meant by immobilize? Once the antibody combines or clump to pathogen, then the pathogen cannot multiply, cannot move, cannot go to new cells. So the immobilization, it prevents the entry of the pathogen into other cells and destroying other cells or from multiplying. Now, this is the first point. The second point, that this phagocyte engulfs the pathogen. Engulfment. Number 3, after engulfment, they are inside vesicles. They become here contained inside small vacuoles or vesicles. And now they are being digested by special enzymes and broken down. Okay? Then the material diffuse into the cytoplasm. Number 5, an electron micrograph of some red blood cells and lymphocytes. Here are red blood cells and here are lymphocytes, white blood cells. Describe how antibodies provide protection from diseases caused by virus and bacteria. Here the question also talks about active immunity, but with less ideas than the questions before. The first question asks about how vaccine prevents the spread of diseases. The second one talks about how the vaccine provokes the immunity. Now the immunity has been provoked, and this question talks about how antibodies, after they are produced, provide the protection from diseases. So this talks about how antibodies work. As we said in question 4, they clump and they immobilize the movement of the pathogen. So question 5, they attach to the antigen, fit complementary to it. This is 1. 2, immobilize the pathogen or prevent its movement or its entry to another cells or its multiplying. Number 3, antibodies also, they divide and divide. Also, they produce toxins. After they immobilize, they produce toxins to kill or to destroy the pathogen. And with the work of phagocyte, you have to tell this, that phagocyte and antibodies or lymphocyte work together. As you see here in this, they produce antibodies, they clump to it with the help of phagocyte. Now, if phagocytes are not able to engulf it, they multiply further and further and producing toxins. Okay? So, they immobilize the pathogen. They are fit and complementary exactly to the pathogen. They divide. I'm talking about all the work of the lymphocyte or the antibody. They divide and they release a toxin and help with the phagocyte engulfment. So please watch carefully the keywords of the questions and how to answer the questions. Thank you very much.